And then what are we doing? Yeah, you got to have structure, and then it's only as good as adhering to your structure.
Yep.
And so, the issue is when you got a mortgage or lease that I had is you got to make the lease. And so if your guy gets loaded or 3 guys get loaded and you got 5 guys and you kick 3 out, you got to come out of pocket to make the lease. Yeah. So you go back to principles over personality. So you got to apply principles. So, I got to apply principles even when it hurts financially.
Welcome. This show empowers you to confront and overcome addiction with real stories, inspiration, and a host of resources. Our growing community supports, uplifts, and takes action to enable a new way of living. Now, F3 Recovery brings you the Super Sober Podcast. All right, welcome to Super Sober Podcast, SSP number 27. Thanks for tuning in. It's been a minute since we put one out. Been doing a lot of stuff and behind the scenes, been shouting out for this one for probably, I don't even know how many podcasts now that our sponsor, His House New Creation, and Glenn S. If you want to go back into some podcasts on episode 12, you can see his story. But now the treatment center over in Claremont is now open. It is functional. It's still in rehabilitation too, just like the clients. But so we have them on here. We've been alluding to it for many podcasts now, and this is going to be basically behind the scenes of treatment centers, which we were going to getting to on episode 12. So a lot of people just think like, hey, I'm just going to get sober and help some people and do all that stuff and get some kind of delusions of grandeur and everything, when we know that it's a lot of work and you got to have your heart into it because the patient population is dangerous and all that. So that's a little preluding of what's going to be going on in this podcast. Just want to let you know, my name is Brett C. I'm an RN with a BSN. My sobriety date is 4/21/03. I've been working in hospitals, helping out with this crazy convoluted disease addiction. We're coming up on somewhere around 20 years at some point here. It's been pretty crazy, and it's all got springboarded from my guest here, Glenn S. And go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us your sobriety date.
Oh, nice. My name's Glenn. I'm an addict, and my sobriety date is 9/17/1991. My birthday's 18th, belly button.
And what's your business credentialing?
Business credential. Well, I got a KDAC too, and then I have an MBA.
That's right.
So, yeah.
All right. Well, that's a little bit of where we're going to get into there. And I knew Glenn before he had that MBA and everything, and just want to backtrack on a little history. When I got out of my last 90-day treatment center, I knew I was going to stay sober, but it had to be one day at a time, and I needed a safe place to land. And I've alluded to that on a lot of the previous podcasts and stuff. And where did I land at? His House New Creation. And for 2 years, I was in Glenn's place, and he always had his finger on the pulse there. He knew what was going on. You could tell he had his heart in it. And here we are up to 30 years later, and he's still doing it. I'm working on year 22, almost coming into year 23. And we've been friends the whole time. Mm-hmm. And he helped me make my first budget. I remember that in sober living, and to get me on my feet. It was a safe place, and all the stuff that goes along with living in sober living. I always say, if you want to have a good place to practice the program and everything, live in sober living for a little while. That'll give you all the opportunity you need. But first, what we do before every podcast right here, we're going to do some shout outs on sobriety right here. We're going to do some milestones. There's been some cool ones right here. We got, let me see. We got Patrick taking 1 year. Yeah. Good job, Patrick. And we got Killian, who just took 1 year too. Then we got Brother Tim, who took 6 years. Right on, Brother Tim. Good job, bro. And then we have Cleve, the Clevester himself. If anybody knows him, he's an icon in the OC area. Hope you're listening, Cleve. We love you, brother. That's a total of 36 years right there for Cleve. Probably have him on an upcoming episode. So heal well, brother. I saw him in a meeting the other morning. So, and then of course we got to introduce the best in the business over here. That's Solomon here at the podcast place in Long Beach, California. Hey. That wouldn't be happening without this wouldn't be happening without him. He always gives us a safe place to land, always keeping things real back there and everything. And Don't forget, it's tax season is coming up. We got another 15 days to get things done. And don't forget that Mike D is a remote tax doctor. It's tax season. Just go to the f3recovery.org resources page and you'll see him. He'll help you out. He'll help you get past all your fears, maybe help you dig out some other stuff of your history, get you on a plan. He's on, I forget which podcast that was. He's been on 2 or 3 of them, and reach out and tell him that the Super Sober podcast sent you, or Brett C or whatever. He's got all types of discounts and everything to help you. So now that we got the introduction going over, we're going to get right into it here with Glenn. Yeah. So I'll tell you, I went out there and we're going to be showing some videos. So just, if you're listening, I know it's going to be maybe a little bit disturbing, but we're doing a lot of videos and pictures. So, of course, we're on all platforms. Just hit it up on YouTube. You can listen just the same as if, you were listening on Spotify or whatever. Just a little shout out and a little understanding on that one. So let's just go into about, this is a lot to topic to cover for sure. So we're going to be doing some videos, some before and after pictures and everything. Me and the wife and his wife are in some of the pictures and the videos. So it's going to be really cool. It's a lot of visual, as usual on the Super Sober podcast. So let's just do like maybe a quick little introduction of 30 years compiled in about 5 or 10 minutes.
That's the trick.
Yeah.
Right?
So I started, just real quick, I started at the 9th Street house. And then the Darlington one opened up over those 2 years. And if I was in that sober living, I would have never became a nurse. One of the managers was there. And then I ended up managing there for like the last 6 months, enough able to save money and use the sober living for what it was. And man, thanks a lot, man, Glenn. I really appreciate you. And thanks for coming on Super Sober Podcast.
You bet. You're welcome. Very proud of you. And that's what it's all about, is to get a clean, safe, sober place to live and kind of get your ducks in a row. You had a lot of significant things happen all at once before you started school. I remember you well, and word of privilege. That's why we do what we do. For guys like you to get it, man. So thank you for what you're doing. I appreciate you, man.
Of course, man.
Yeah.
Who would ever know that we have you on a podcast doing all that stuff and taking videos? You just never know where this journey is going to take you.
Right. Right. So 30 years and 5 to, okay. So.
And go. No.
All right. So, I mean, I'm an addict and use a lot of cocaine and alcohol, and it didn't work anymore. I bumped my head really good, figuratively, of course, but, I couldn't stay stopped. I could not use. And I cried out to God out of sheer utter desperation. And, I heard it said in a meeting, and I never had words to describe how horrible I felt. But I heard it described the pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. And it's like, oh, that's how I feel. That's it. Finally got words to it. And so, in desperation, only trying to do it my way and trying to quit and, regulate and switch from this, typical AA chapter 3 stuff. I mean, I tried a lot of those things, and the conclusion is that I'm in trouble and I can't get me out, And so in that desperation moment, the worst moment of my life, I cried out to God and said, man, if you're real, and he'd shown himself, he'd moved in my life on my behalf before. And I said, if you'll help me, I'll do anything. And I ended up at Impact. And that was a Friday early afternoon. And I ended up in treatment at Impact in Pasadena, California. Mm-hmm. Thank God for that place. And it was, had I chose it, had I scouted it out and vetted it, and again, it was Friday when I cried out to God. And Monday I was there and interviewed. Tuesday I admitted to a long-term program, and so that changed my life, and they said, work steps or die. Get a sponsor or go home, and give that bed to somebody who wants it. People are dying to get in here, and they had a wait list. And they said, man, well, if you don't do the work here, that's fine. We'll get rid of you, and we'll have your bed full before them sheets are cold. And then they acted according, and so it was just what I needed. It was a 12-step model, and it was do this or die. And I was in the desperate mode, and so that's how it started. I finished that program; it changed my life, and I went back to that factory job. I went, this isn't it. I got fired on my way into treatment. I got that same job, one phone call on the way out. God, you really showed up in a big way, and that's a whole other segment. But I got that same job back. But then, I was working with a bunch of people in a factory, and 65 people, 49 of them folks were using actively, and so I went back into the war zone. And it was watching people leave at lunch. It was my get down. We'd split punch out in a half hour. We could go down and get a 12-pack.
Right.
And split it with 4 or a 6-pack with 2. I could drink 3 beers and snort 2 fat lines of cocaine and punch out, go get it, consume, and get back and punch in on time. Bam. And that was a norm, Yeah. Anyway, and so when I got back to that job, being clean and sober, it was like, oh my God, you guys are pathetic. And I was worse than all of them. So I thought, oh my God, what were all these people thinking when they were watching me, man? And so that created a discomfort, and I was happy to have the job, grateful. Was able to do some stuff that I'd never been able to do because I was sober. And the push, the uncomfortability, and in talking to my mentors, it was what are you thinking about while you're miserable, while you're at this job? And it was like, I can't get away from this recovery experience. I got some information. It changed my life. I looked for it for about 3 years, and I couldn't find it. I couldn't do it on my own. And so I went to this program, you know what I mean? And so that's what I was actively thinking about, was basically 12-step work. And, and so that, my pastor was one of my mentors, and he said, hey, that's God's call. He said, you got his thumb in your back, Thank God for that, because I'm simple. I had to have him tell me that. And, but I believed it, and I was good with it. And so he said, okay, well, you need to start your educational path, and you're supposed to be helping people. And so, I was working during the day, going to night school, went to Mount Sac, and started the 80 101 in August of 92.
That's right. A lot of people, right, when they get going, they get on the scholastic hustle.
Yeah.
Because we need something to put our minds on.
Yeah, yeah.
And look where it's going.
Yeah, I've always told my wife I'm going to be busy doing something.
Yeah, that's right.
Better be helping people than what I used to do.
Yeah.
So she's like, oh, yeah, go help someone. That's a good idea. She remembers well.
Right.
So anyway, the end of the process is I finished school. Right when I was getting ready to finish school, the property across the street from the church became available, and I'd done a little bit of work on it, so I was familiar with it. And I volunteered and painted one of the rooms there. And so it was empty. They were getting ready to rent out one of the rooms. It's a fourplex, an old Victorian house. And I didn't share that with anybody. I went in there and go, wow, this would be great sober living. Now, I did 128 days residential and got to go home.
Yeah.
And never did sober living. But I picked up guys and took them to meetings, what we're supposed to do, right? Mm-hmm. So I was very familiar with the process. And so I went over there to do some work, and it was just quiet in myself. Wow, this would be a great sober living. Painted the room, split. About 6 months later, I was in a breakfast meeting with these, my mentor and some leaders of the church. My pastor invited me to a men's breakfast.
It was right
meeting.
Across the street from 9th Street.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and they had bought the property,
yeah,
and they tried renting it out. Anyway, they had a young lady move in there with a toddler, and then she moved in her drug-dealing boboyfriend, and the youth pastor lived downstairs with a couple of toddler and an infant. And so, one night the lady the youth pastor's wife was home with the kids. Her husband was gone, and that lady upstairs was getting the bark beat off her by her drug-dealing boyfriend. And so she grabbed the bat and shooed the guy off and said, I'm out of here. And so that had just happened. And then I was in this breakfast meeting. They were like, what are we going to do with that house? And I go, what are you talking about? The house across the street? Oh, that'd be a great sober living. They looked at me and went, whoa, what's a sober living? That's the birth of his house.
That's amazing.
So they had me put some stuff down, did a little bit of homework, went and presented it to the board. They gave me unanimous 90 days to see what you can do, man. So I just leased it from the church for 30 days at a time. And they gave me 90 days to see if I could make it work, And so the first guy that moved in, I had to clean it up. It was a mess. Right. But the first guy moved in, he paid rent, and I went and bought his bed.
That's cool.
I didn't have a business plan. I didn't have money for this anyway, and so it was just my give back. And
starting with one bed.
Well, 4. I bought 4 beds, but the first guy paid rent, and I went and bought beds. Yeah. Beds and sheets, blankets, and pillows.
Let's go.
And then the second guy moved in, I went and bought pot, pans, and dishes, and a couch, and a TV, and so on and so forth. So we were full within the first 30 days.
Amazing.
And then I've kind of been at it ever since. So pursuing my educational, this was a give back. I wasn't making money at the time. It cost, but we were able to pay rent the first month. They gave me 90 days, and I was paid rent, and I've always have since. God's provided, right? It's been good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I got a question for Glenn on that.
Shoot.
Sure.
Hey, so when you did that, like you said, you were just sort of going from, as soon as the money comes in, it's going out. What about these guys who were there? Were you teaching them? Did you borrow some curriculum from somewhere? Like, how did you go about teaching them, bringing them along in the program?
Great question. So in the educational process of going to school to be a drug counselor, learning about law and ethics, and learning about the modalities and do's and don'ts, right? Ethical dilemmas and such. Sober living can't provide service. And here I'm studying to be a counselor. So I can house them, but I can't make them do groups. I can't open a chart. I can't do a treatment plan. I can't do those things that I'm training to do. So they're housing them. But I'm a 12-step model, and I'm a 12-step guy. So we're going to meetings. You're going to stay clean. So I was able to write structure But and then I'd take them to meetings and help them get sponsors and help work steps. And then we did like a weekly house meeting, and I was there for many years myself. Right. I mean, I hired a house manager because I was fortunate enough to stay married and live with my wife and kids. Woo. So I never spent the night in the sober living, still to this day. But I hired somebody, and he was living on site. And so I put together the structure through, mentorship. I have a sponsor, and I was talking to him about this endeavor and the idea. And he said, well, you got to talk to Bud, which is his sponsor. So my grant sponsor started, social model recovery systems, and, Bud Hayes, and he was a great guy. And anyway, I talked to Bud, and he said, oh, you need to talk to Ken Shunlau. Sorry, I'm giving last name, but these are heroes in this field. And Ben was, he was doing the Sober Living Network.
Okay.
And so he pioneered that stuff. He
Oh,
was
wow,
out of
that's
Santa
great.
Monica. And so I got hooked up with him. He came and met with me. He's a great guy. And he said, hey, you can do this, you can't do that. You can do this, you can't do that. So that was pretty much the idea is, through being open and listening to people and seeking out, those that come before us, right? And the guys that know what they're doing and seeking their advice. I'd adapted and adjusted to their ideas rather than my own. And so we put structure together and just pushed it. Go to meetings or go home. You get loaded. I'm sorry, you don't have to. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Kind of one of those things.
Yeah.
And then the rule that you had though is that if you did relapse, then you had to go into detox, and then you could come back. But if you did it again, you couldn't come back for a year.
Yeah, it was a corrective action plan.
Yeah,
and it was like, if you're remorseful, I'm going to help you. If you're going to be a jerk, go. And we got both.
That keeps it safe.
Yeah.
It keeps it safe.
Yeah.
More people should do that.
Well, this Ken guy was smart enough. He'd been around for many, many years at the time. And he had said, if people break abstinence, we could talk about California High, and we talk about MAT services and all this. It didn't exist. I mean, California, none of that stuff existed back there.
Yeah.
This was September of 1994 when we got started. So but Ken said,
that's year 3 of you being sober.
Yeah. I
Getting busy.
I took 3 years on the 17th of September 1994, and on the 27th is when I got the keys to the house. So 3 years, 10 days.
There's always that magic after 2 years and some of the solid, working on things.
Right. And I was almost done with school too,
Yeah.
to be a counselor, get down. So at least the didactic stuff. Right. So, anyway, Ken said, hey, if guys break abstinence, it's no longer a sober house. So you got to have a steady rule. And if you're going to call it a sober living, they have to be sober. And so, you don't have to kick them to the curb immediately. And he gave advice, and because he'd been in this business and doing this for a long time, and he was only interested in sober living. He wasn't doing treatment at all. It was all sober living and help people with housing, because that's an issue. A lot of people get done with a residential or a hospital model detox or something, and then they don't got nowhere to go. And it's like, this is a valuable resource, and people need it.
Absolutely. You need accountability.
Well,
to change.
And then what are we doing? Yeah, you got to have structure, and then it's only as good as adhering to your structure.
Yep.
And so, the issue is when you got a mortgage or a lease that I had, is you got to make the lease. And so if guy gets loaded, or 3 guys get loaded, and you got 5 guys and you kick 3 out, you got to come out of pocket to make the lease. Yeah. So you go back to principles over personality. And so you got to apply principles. So, I got to apply principles even when it hurts financially. And I did that a few times, but it's a hard, fast rule, or it isn't. So don't write it if you ain't going to live by it. And so we wrote it and we live by it. And I've been doing that since. But I want to help people if they're remorseful to get into, a corrective action plan.
So you went from 9th Street, and then I remember I was the first one to move into your second sober living, which was on Darlington, right? And then
I think we actually had the apartment before that, right on Wiseman Way, right on the corner.
Yeah, maybe, or you were
3-story
renovating
condo.
that. Yeah.
Well, I was leasing that too.
Yeah,
that was our second get down, and then we got Darlington.
Mm-hmm. And then you were already moving out into Corona and all those areas. Colton. I always get that wrong.
Yeah, no worries. It sounds
Colton in the other, and it's just been growing ever since. And then, like on the commercial that's going to be coming up, and halfway through this podcast here, it just shows all of your, houses coming up, and just the continual growth, and then all the learning and everything that's been going on with it. It's just amazing to see. But how long was it from the 9th Street to the Colton house? What was the actual time frame of pros and cons and learning and growing like that?
Yeah, lots of stuff. Well, I had this dilemma that I'm doing a sober living and I can't do case management on these guys, and I'm in the field. I mean, I got my first job paid job at a charter hospital in Corona, and it was a medical model, and it was it was cool. But so I'm learning and doing all this counseling stuff, and I'm only housing guys. So the thought was, man, I gotta do something more. I could be doing a better job with these guys because I'm going to work. And I'm not living there anyway, but I'm going to work and I'm coming back in the evening and weekends. I mean, I
It's
for the first few years,
time.
I probably spent 40 hours at the sober living on top of my 40 hours on my job, and still doing the meetings and staying married, all that good stuff, and to do what we do. But the thought was, man, I could do a better job if we were to get licensed. And so I had some friends of mine that I was in school with that went to the incarceration stuff and they were doing rehabilitation in prison. And
I remember when you got that contract at
so,
Ninth Street.
Yeah, and so they called me up and said, "Hey, man, we need your sober living." It's one of my friends that was in school with, and says, they got this contract, man. They're doing treatment inside, and then we want you to do the housing outside. And they said, so here's the deal, but you got to have an outpatient program. They got to go to outpatient. So I went to the local treatment center and said, "Hey, I'm going to do the housing piece. I want you to do the outpatient." And the CEO of the company said, "We're competition. I can't do that." And I kind of chuckled, but I was offended. It was like, wow, there's addicts everywhere. This is war. People are dying all over the place. And we're on the same team, I thought. And we're trying to do the same thing, And so anyway, so I got a little resentment. And so I said, well, screw it. I'm already certified. This was in February of 2001. I got an outpatient and I got that contract. So I was able to provide the outpatient. I mean, I already was, a certified counselor. I'm already in the business. Right, for 5 years, and so we were just doing sober living up to that point, and then I got the outpatient, and that changed things, and I got that contract, and kind of changed everything, and then it was like, I was working full time at the hospital, and coming in and working my outpatient program 5 nights a week, 3 hours a night on top of my full time gig, and so that's kind of how we built the business,
and people just don't get how much actual work to transition from your 40-hour and then to your business that you're creating and everything, of how much work is on top of that to transition so you can leave your 40.
Yeah.
They say don't quit your day job and all that kind of stuff, but the vision was to quit the day job and go full time and help people.
Yeah. And it was when. And I had invested, my time and energy, and it's precious. I don't know how much I got, and so I was, my mentorship's like, man, when I got my sponsor, he asked, "What are you looking for?" And I said, "I just want to work the steps." He says, "Cool. I'm not a marriage therapist. You can't have my couch. You sleeping on it. And, I'm not transportation. I don't have money. So I'm interested in helping you to work the steps." And I said, that's all I want, And anyway, he gave some good advice. He says, I don't know how much time I got, So he says, the guys that call me sponsor, I'm going to give them an assignment. If you do the work, I'll give you another one. And if not, you can call me sponsor. A lot of people do that, but I'm interested in spending my time with people that are interested in doing the work. So he taught me right there to watch the feet, not listen to the mouth.
Yeah.
And so, so I try to live that, So put energy into folks, and when they respond, then put more energy in. And
that's right. And you kept on putting your hips where your lips were and all that stuff, and you went back and got your MBA.
Yeah, so I started that.
Could get more accreditation and then understand the business model, and then have the degrees to back the thing. So when people come at you, you already have all the degrees in place, and you got the title behind your name, right?
Yeah. Here's a brief summary of that. I'll try to be brief.
Yeah, sure.
I can be detailed.
Do a couple minutes on that.
So what happened was I'm working in the field. I got my KDAC. And I'm working in the field, and I hit the ceiling. KDAC, and you're in a hospital. You ain't going anywhere. You ain't doing anything. But I was content with what I was doing, but I was limited. And so the thought was, and I had this sober living gig going, and I got that outpatient going. I mean, I still worked at the hospital for 2 years after I got my own outpatient program going on. It's like, when do I transition? Anyway,
and you were driving a modest car. You were living your life and doing well and loving your wife and the kids and raising and everything. It was.
Yeah, if the program doesn't get practiced at home, it's no good.
Yeah.
It's the hardest place to do it, they said, right? So it's got to, recovery at home first. So principles apply at home too.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyway, so you're absolutely right. So what happened was I started getting some traction with this, what I'm doing in treatment, and I had this okay, God, I want to go residential, and so what happened was, okay, wait. And so, so when I got to sober living, I want to help people. Okay, so do this. So I went to school, got certified. Then I got some experience, charter hospital, 3 years about, psych ward, inpatient, medical model, detox, outpatient. And then I jumped over to Loma Linda. I was working a swing shop. I ended up running an outpatient program for them and working at night. And so swing. So I'd see my kids, they'd leave in the morning and I'd come home there in bed. So I was like, I did that for a couple of years, great learning, but it's like, this ain't for me. So it caused me to look. And so I jumped over to Loma Linda. And so it was hurry up and get this experience. And then, so that was a chronic pain management inpatient detox unit. And then I did that for about a year. And then I developed a partial hospital outpatient program for them. And so dealing with dually diagnosed folks, primary. And so I did that for another 4.5 years. So then I said, well, I need to go back to school. I'm tapped out. So then I returned to school. And when I got to school, I'm working full time doing my outpatient program and going to school. So it was like, and there was some stress, I'm kind of resentment driven. That makes sense. Sometimes, all resentments aren't bad. There was some stuff happening at the job and it was like, okay, this is my sign. I'm out.
God pushing you, nudging you, thumbing your back again.
Yeah. Thank God. Cause I might still just be hanging out over there.
Yep.
So, anyway,
people, how God works.
Yeah. And so then I sought out education. I went to Biola, and as soon as I started school, I went, all right, I'm out. It's time to go. And then, so I stepped off to work for myself, and that was
amazing
in like August of 2003. And then I walked with a bachelor's degree in organizational leadership. I went to Biola University. And then, I was like, man, this thing works.
Yeah.
I basically gave up on school in 7th grade.
Yeah.
Never tried.
Yeah, but, once we get moving in the scholastic hustle, things get moving.
Yeah, and so I took the summer off after I walked, and then I went, I was looking and checked out a bunch of schools, and it was, do I get a license and be like, I was going to get an MSW and get an LCSW, and or, and I'm a Christian guy, right? And so I studied the Bible a little bit and the correlation between the 12 steps. That stuff changed my life, and gave me something. And so I was like, can I, and my dad pretty much was saying, you need to be a pastor. And I'm like, well, okay, cool. I'm not arguing, but in the process of figuring it out, it was like, you're kind of doing business too, and so through prayer and to talking to other, mentors of mine, it was like, you probably should just go get that MBA. Yep. And so I took the time off. I walked in May of 2005, and then in August of 2005, I started my MBA program. So all that to say this, so I wanted to do residential, and God said, hold on, go get some experience, go get some education, go get some training, get some more education. Right. Yep. And that's the way it worked out. And so in God's perfect timing, definitely not mine, I ain't that smart. I walked with my MBA in May of 2008, and I got my first license. I did 2 6-bed facilities. So I walked in May of 2008, and I got my license for detox and residential May of 2008. So it's God's thing, not mine, and so that's kind of how that started. And then I started with 2, and then, we just got full, and I learned a little bit about digital marketing and started a call center, and things got crazy. And,
right.
Things got busy.
Just plugging away the next step and the next step. And this is kind of really great to pause right here. And let's just go into the commercial really quick, Solomon. And then on this commercial, and if you do need, if you need any help, just remember to call this number. It's 877-345-4138. That number again is 877-345-4138. And he takes all insurances. And if you need help or they can't help you, they're going to get you to where you need to go. It's not going to just leave you hanging. And then on this commercial, you're going to see all the houses and everything. It kind of goes from the 9th Street. If people haven't seen the commercial or whatever, you're going to hear it. You can listen to it. And then we'll come right back in, and then we're going to be going on and moving forward with the 71-bed treatment center in Claremont. So go ahead. We'll be right back.
Welcome to the place where it all began, the 9th Street House. Our maiden journey into hope and recovery for his house new creation treatment centers since 1994. Right next door, the 9th Street apartment building stands as a testament to our commitment to providing comfortable and safe spaces for recovery. And on the other side, nestled amidst nature's best, our Palm House offers a tranquil haven to begin the path to sobriety. You'll find 12 unique His House New Creation treatment centers across Southern California. Just as recovery encompasses inner and outer transformation, our facilities mirror this philosophy. The external beauty of our homes reflect the nurturing and healing environments you'll discover within. These are just glimpses of the harmonious spaces where we support your journey to recovery. Our state-licensed and highly accredited programs echo this sentiment. We know that successful addiction treatment is more than skin deep. It requires a robust plan that heals the mind, strengthens the body, and nourishes the soul. We select the best facility to cater to your unique needs, providing focused, compassionate care that sets you firmly on the path to sobriety and hope. Welcome to His House New Creation Treatment Centers, where the journey to a healthier you begins. Your recovery begins here with us.
All right, we're back. Thanks for listening to Glenn's His House New Creation commercial right there. You got a little background glimpse of where we're going and then the different houses that showed you on the video. And we're moving forward right into the Claremont, the 71 bed treatment center right here. And it was amazing. So me and the wife went up there and we did some videos and checking out the place when we've been plugging it a little bit here in all the podcasts leading up to this. And why don't we kind of just move in, Solomon, and we'll just do the first street video right here really quick. What do you think?
All right, let's do it.
Right here we are right here on Indian Hill in Claremont. Check it out. Kind of pulling back here and looking at the entrance right here that's still in construction to the front part of the detox house here at His House New Creation Claremont. Gonna take this whole area out here and reconcrete it, put the concrete in for the driveway right here, so this could be the pickup and the drop off right here. And this is the other side of the street from over off of Indian Hill over here, so super nice. And then we'll just go into the next video right here. And that's kind of like the opening video. And that's like in the back part right there. So this property kind of reaches around. It's an unbelievable property, guys. And then we'll hit the next one, Solomon. Here we are at New Creation Claremont right here with the other Brett with 2 T's. He's cleaning up the property. You can see how vast this property is right here. This is in the back. They've stuccoed all the new houses and everything. This is going to be the detox house. And here is the owner, Mr. Glenn S. right here. Tell us a little bit about His House New Creation Claremont. What's going on?
Well, we've been working on getting this place for a while, and they always had the thoughts getting a bigger place and serving more people in one spot. So this owner was getting ready to retire, and they reached out to me and thought we'd be a good fit. So this is a 71 bed facility, and it's co-ed, detox, and with the withdrawal management and residential care. And so this is kind of a unique property. It's an acre and a third. We're just off Indian Hill, just north of the 10 freeway. And we've done a little bit. Been working on the property. Got it on Halloween of all times, right?
Yeah.
Got sense of humor.
Let's turn the nightmare into a dream, right?
Yeah.
It's going to happen right here. So we're just going to be doing some fragmented stuff here and some videos and keeping it kind of short, keep it podcast relatable, and we'll be right back with you.
Thanks.
And then we'll just do one more right here, the third one there, Solomon. This is the detox house. That's right there at that building that was just behind them on the last video. This is inside the detox house right here. Look at how big it is right here for the meetings, new floor, new everything. Of course, we got it all right here, the 12 steps and 12 traditions. It is really, really nice. It's all coming together. Everything's new and remodeled. Going to come into right here where there's going to be an office for the people. Here's the ladies behind the scene. If you wanted, we're recording for the podcast. Oh my gosh, look at the bed. 3-person bed part of the detox. We come back down and around real quick. Some cool stuff here, Glenn. Good job. It looks really, really nice.
All Carol's color coordinations.
Yes, Carol's color coordination.
Pick for the furnishings and the paint colors.
Yeah, so you got another 3 beds right here. Look at 2 beds in here. Then you got 3 back there, and then you got another 3 in here. Look at all the room you have for a really nice detox area and everything. Really nice.
This is super cool.
Yeah, coming in really quick here to the into the kitchen. You got a bedroom, kitchen area, and then right back through. This is the detox area. It's almost finished here, guys. All right. Thanks for taking a second to watch those first 3 opening videos on there. So let's just take a step back from that and do a little bit of preluding and the little trials and tribulations that it takes to open a 71 bed treatment center and into a new area. I know got a little bit more background drop than the people would anyways, but tell us a few things that it took to get through the city and to open that, because it's been how long now that you've been working on from zero to opening there?
Wow. Well, they first approached me about a little more than 3 years ago.
Yeah. Wow.
And so it took a while, but about a year ago, we got it in under a contract.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it would have been in October was a year ago. So almost a year and a half.
Yeah.
So, went to the city and told them who I am, what we're doing, what we're trying to do. And they went, what? The not in my backyard thing. Right. And so,
yeah, that's
I've learned
that's the NIMBY, right?
Yeah. NIMBY. Yeah. Everybody wants people to get help, but just somewhere else.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what city you're in.
Yeah.
But we're talking about Claremont, they didn't want to see us there, even though there's a lot of addicts walking the street.
Oh, yeah.
Up and down, right in front of the place.
Yep, just down the road, we got the famous Mission and Holt Street and all that kind of stuff in those areas. So
yeah, that's well known. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So anyways,
a little bit of Pomona down over there too.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Little P town. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so, I had the privilege of working with the people, go to the front desk, talk to the planning and development people, talk to them. Then they set me up with a senior guy. I had a meeting with him and they're like, whoa, what are you trying to, and they're all trying to trip me up, I've got several licenses. I've dealt with every city I've ever been in. We've had kind of the same issue. Mm-hmm. And so, I'm fortunate enough that I was introduced to the best lawyer there is that I know of with zoning and land use. And so, after talking to you got to work your way up. You can't just go get to the mayor or talk to the top people. You got to start at the front desk. And so that took a while. Schedule meetings, go do a meeting, schedule a meeting, do a meeting. And they were all like, not too thrilled about the idea of us being there. But then,
but it was already a mental health place anyways, with people with severe mental illness and everything, right?
Yeah, it was a board and care,
Yeah.
and it had a CUP, and it had been in operation since
And
1961.
what's the CUP stand for?
Conditional use permit. It was getting the city's permission, but with a CUP, you have to from every point of like a rectangle, every square, you draw a line 300 feet, and so you end up with a circle. So anybody within 300 feet or the radius from any touch point of the property, you have to notify and invite them to a public hearing.
Yeah.
And you got to go through that grilling. And there's always people within that.
You got to start taking people to lunch, right?
Well, yeah,
No,
I'm not. You're right. I mean, and I'm not a politician. I don't do that stuff well. I just want to do what I do. And
Right. Yeah.
why
You
is it
want
a
to help.
problem? Yeah. But anyway, and so we, the conditional use, you got to, you apply for permission. They put a public notice out. They do a public hearing. You got to go through, and then they thumbs up or thumbs down, and it's a crapshoot. And but there's already one established on the property for residential care.
Yeah.
So I'm doing the same use, and that's our premise, and that's how we were able to get through. But it took almost a year just to get their blessing on it. And the final meeting was with the mayor and my lawyer, and it goes. You start at the front desk, and then you get to the planner, and then you get to the head guys, and you get to.
They're just wanting to see how serious you are.
Yeah, well, and if they can make you go away by all these layers, I can imagine how many people give up because it's frustrating. I'm stubborn. You know what they first?
Me too. So.
Yeah, a lot of us understand that one real well. Don't tell me no.
Yeah.
And so the first time I went to a city was Upland, and I told the guy what I wanted to do at 9th Street. I want to do residential, and he said, "Okay, cool." Looked at the address, went and talked to his people, came back, handed me an application for a conditional use permit. What? $7,800? You got to do all this work about a month and a half later. I remember I was a little busy at the time too, working.
Yeah.
And so I come back with a check for $7,800 and a completed application for a CUP, and I hand it to him. And this is how I learned some of these things. And so the same guy that handed me the application, he was the senior planner, said, "I can't take your application." And I said, "What do you mean? Why not?" And this is kind of the key. He says, "We don't want addicts in our neighborhood. We can't take your app." And I went, "Wait a minute. I'm a drug addict. I'm just in recovery."
Yeah.
And they're all over. And I'm just trying to help our sons and daughters, but they refused to take my application. They wouldn't even let me apply for the privilege of a public hearing, which is a grilling. Anyway, so that kind of, that resentment thing I talked about earlier, right?
I did a lot of drug use in that neighborhood.
Yeah. And there's lots of stuff happening all around us.
Oh yeah.
But anyways, and so I know enough to keep going. Anyway, it ends up with the city's attorney and then my attorney. That when they talk, that's when things happen. You're not going to get anywhere fighting with the city. So, if somebody's really interested.
Wait, I'm going to lunch. Click.
If somebody's really interested, get a hold of me through Brett. And, I'd be happy to share some of my experiences. Might save some people some trouble.
Absolutely.
And I've learned a couple of things, like how do you get a 6-bed residential facility to 10. All right, because they all require a conditional use permit. Nah,
And this
no, they
is the
don't.
same story, no matter what city your place is in. And then now we're at Claremont
Yeah.
doing the same walk up over a year as you did
Yeah.
almost 30 years before over in Upland.
Yep. So
And it's just crazy, right? It's 2025. And why do we still got to,
yeah.
they're already there. And we're going to be going into some pictures here very shortly of how much renovation you went through and all
Yeah.
that too. So
Yeah, well,
let's go back to the mayor at
Yeah.
Claremont.
So anyway, yeah. Well, here it's just to piggyback on that real quick. Over 100,000 people died last year from opioid overdoses.
Yeah,
Fentanyl is a real problem, and so I mean, in all of Vietnam War, we lost 55,000 people, and so come on, people, wake up, right? Anyway, and that's where my premise is coming from, and this is what God called me to do, right? This His thumb's still in my back. When that goes away, I'll do something else.
Yep.
Hasn't yet. So anyway, so we're meeting with the mayor and my attorney, their planners, their people, their PR rep, and my wife, and had a little meeting. And so the mayor's all South Claremont. Do you know anything about that neighborhood? I go, yeah, I've been in Ontario since like '85. I'm around the area.
South Claremont.
Yeah. And so I'm a little slow. So he had to say, no, do you understand what's going on down there in that part of town? And he was getting to the prostitution. And I was like, oh, okay. So put the pipe down and come on home.
Yeah, exactly.
These are our people.
We help those sisters too.
Yeah. Anyway, and so that didn't fly very well. He didn't think it was funny. But anyway, and so it went well. They welcomed us. They looked forward. He said, he's a great guy. It was his district. And, it went well. And they congratulated us and thanked us for being there. And then we went to the rehabilitation. We were straight on, and we had just closed on the property. And again, I got the keys. Yeah. We closed in September, but then the gal that was there didn't want to relocate her folks or population until after it closed. Right. It makes perfect sense, right? Can't close it down and it not close escrow. She'd be in trouble. Right. And so we got the keys to take it over. She got everybody out on Halloween. Wow. And then this work started. And so, some of these pictures will show you some of the before and after. So, so here's the basic premises. This is like I represent God in what I'm doing. And so it has to be nice. Right. And so this place, we just call it deferred maintenance. It was in severe deferred maintenance.
Yes, for sure.
And so we're like, okay, well, if we're gonna do a lipstick on a pig, right? We're not gonna do Band-Aid, and then because you're gonna have to. It doesn't make sense long run anyway, because you're gonna always have to revisit it. And so, all right, let's just do this. And so.
And that's been your motto. I mean, you just been doing things and renovating and remodeling all the way from 9th Street, and how you turn that into accredited place too, just slowly renovating and everything through there. So
yeah, it was at least that from the church for 11 years. Yeah. Then they came at me, wanted to sell it, and I ended up finally buying it. Yeah. And then I spent some money on it and fixed it up, and then I got it licensed.
Yeah. It's awesome.
Remember when I walked? Yeah. May of 2008.
Crazy stuff. So let's do another quick little 3 videos here. Let's go to video number 4, and this is a courtyard video. All right, here's the courtyard right here. Each one of these that we've already seen is pretty much uniform to everybody else. We can see people in the courtyard journaling, doing their steps, the staff and everything. It's a very jovial community right here. Plenty of room. Everything is going. They currently have 13 patients here right now. Just doing a little quick circular around here. Housekeeping's working over there. We're just checking out and meeting a lot of the counselors on board right here. They do accept Medi-Cal here. They do have a contract with Kaiser also. So you can see they got the fountain that's going to be going. Everything is up and running, but there's still last touches to do. So just seeing Glenn and the wife over there talking and stuff like that. Super cool. The blessings of sobriety. Come and check it out. That's his house, new creation, Claremont. All right. And then we'll just circle right into the next video. And this is the staffing area in the front house. So the other videos before, this property circles all the way around. So on the corner, there's a hospital building or, businesses. And then you wouldn't even know it's an unbelievable property, and it feels like home. It's unlimited potential in there. And let's go to the next one. So on number 5 there, Solomon. Okay, so we're coming into the front part of the His House New Creation Claremont. Here's one of the drivers right here, waving. We got all types of people. He's got LVNs, RNs here. Everybody you need to take care of whatever it is. Here's the main central counseling room. We're just going to go in here, and Glenn's going to show us a little bit around. And we got more offices and restrooms and everything for the sessions and stuff. And then we got a do not disturb right there. Whoa. But Glenn can do whatever he wants, though. So just doing a little bit of videoing for Glenn. Sorry there, sir. So to let you know, another nurse taking care of stuff. He's got 2 RNs and an LVN on staff here. So super cool stuff right there. There's Miss Super Sober right there. I don't have one.
Miss,
So there you go.
give me your keys.
Yeah, in the moment right there, a little bit of live stuff right there, of course, always on the Super Sober podcast. Then we'll just go ahead and do the last video right here. And this is the dining area and the kitchen area. All right, we're right here, checking out one of the places in the very front building where they have all the staff and the nurses and everything. Tell us a little bit about where we're going right here, Glenn.
Well, we're in the staffing lounge here, and so the staff come in here and take their breaks, their lunches, etc.
Look at all the room in here.
Yeah.
I might want to move in here.
I got a bigger table coming, but for now it's spacious. Then we're going to cruise right in here into the
Okay,
dining
cool.
room.
All right, cool. And this is where everybody's going to communally eat every day and everything, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
This is already
sweet.
in
Oh
operation.
man, look at all the room and everything here. This is super nice. Oh yeah, we got it all going on here. Look at this. Look at how big everything is right here. Super cool. TV for people to watch and relax and eat. We got the chef over here. He's got the old school Black Sabbath shirt on. Let's go. And here, let's get another quick view right in through here. Wow, look at that. Super nice. All professional chef's kitchen and everything in here. Let's go. Super cool. All right, any last comments, questions, or concerns or anything there, Glenn?
For me, no, we're still a work in progress, but we're operational, and we're looking to increase our census by opening up another one of those units here, which houses 16 people next week.
Sweet.
And then probably the end of next week as well, we'll be opening up that detox. I'm still working on some of the furniture over there and the staffing. So
Okay.
we're waiting on staffing.
Sweet. All right.
Capacity is 71.
Oh my gosh,
This
yes.
will be the-
So people
this-
looking for work over there, just check out hishousenewcreation.com and you'll see he's been advertising a lot too and everything. So you think you got what it takes to help people in recovery?
Yes.
And recovery's helped you? Come and check out Glenn, always at His House New Creation.
Nice.
Thanks a lot, brother.
Yes, thank you.
All right, so there we go. I mean, here we are, and then now you've opened up that detox. You got a couple patients in there, and you've already opened up another side because yeah,
No, we've just opened up one, and we're getting ready to open up the other one.
yeah,
So, and then we're going to do it incrementally. So 16. So the staffing stuff is
Right.
is the issue, and we're working on the exterior. Everything on the inside's been redone, and
Mhm.
literally everything that you can think of had to be touched.
right, yeah. Let's throw a couple videos right here. This is renovation videos of how much was done. So just do a quick little walkthrough on that, Glenn. Right, these are the sliding
Sure.
glass doors or something, right?
Yeah, she had non-ambulatory folks there. It was board and
Right.
care, so they had to put in sliders. And so we're like, and it was an old slider. Some of them are hard to push closed. Some of them were leaking air, etc. And so it was like, well, let's make it nice. So this is the enclosing of those.
Yeah.
Take out the sliders and put in regular windows. So framed it in, put in the windows, and then stuccoed. And then so we did a complete stucco of all of the
Yeah,
exterior. There's
everything's uniform.
7 buildings on the property, and they're all done the same and at the same time. And even the wall around the front.
Yeah, I remember that.
Inside,
Everything's
outside.
uniform and nice,
Yeah.
as if it was just
Yep.
all put together like that.
Yeah, so everything on the interior has been done. Like, look, there's the old bathroom. That's what
Yeah.
they look like.
Phew.
So from bathroom, with the FRP on the wall, and that's kind of what was behind it, So we cleaned all that up a little bit, and redid the drains. They were kind of funky and cast iron, and
That's not kind of funky. That is
Yeah.
complete dry rot wood molded area, 2x4s and everything.
yeah. They had part fans in there, but they were only going into the attic, so they were putting moisture up in between the walls. Is the
yeah,
theory.
yeah.
anyway, and then so this is the Hardy Backer with the sealer on it, and then we took the bathtubs and made them showers.
Yeah, and it's so nice looking.
Yeah.
You know, and that was all the Carol Mall. Everything's so nice, man. They'll just come in here and take ownership of it and hopefully be proud of it. And she gave me the look. We hope so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
of course.
Well, if you're
gonna do it, you do it right, right?
yeah, there's 16 showers in those units out back.
I know.
and so we did all of them.
Yeah, it's super nice, and the ratio there for people to showers and everything too is really nice.
Yeah, there's 8 people on one side of the units. Under the roof, there's 2 units, and
Right.
so 8 beds and 2 showers for 8
Right.
people. So it's 4 to 1.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah,
I mean, good luck finding sober living or other properties like that have that kind of ratio usually, right?
right.
And you made that right. And then the other area that you were showing me too had burnt down over by the carport and everything too.
Yeah, yeah. They had some serious problems, so we gutted that and redid the roof.
Mhm.
Stripped it down and fixed it right. And so we've been moving through interior, and now we're on the exterior.
Right.
Now we're doing landscaping, and if anybody
Yeah.
knows me, I like palm trees.
Yeah.
And so that's when you see me putting in palm trees, that project's done. And I've done a few places, and that's kind of a signature thing, and it just feels good.
That's the cherry on top.
Yeah. That's
Right. The
that's
signature thing.
It's like this. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what you've done. It doesn't matter what's done to you. Sorry about that. I hope it hurt bad enough to keep you here. But I don't like discriminate. It's not what we do. I don't care who you are, where you come from, or what kind of money you got or don't got. I treat everybody the same.
Right.
And so my pet peeve is when somebody calls and they need it and want it, don't have resources. And so that got us into the Medi-Cal.
Right.
And it's like, look, let's serve this population.
And they need it.
And then they need it. So I was fortunate enough to get a contract with Orange County.
Yep.
People come from Orange County to the IE.
And,
Actually,
Orange
Claremont's
County is
Los Angeles County.
Orange County's inundated with sober living and treatment centers and everything. It's kind of funny that we're shipping them into the Inland Empire area.
Yeah.
And
For detox and res.
yeah,
They come back to sober living and outpatient back here. Yeah.
So that's super cool.
Yeah.
You
So
know.
then we recently got San Bernardino County about a year ago, and now
Mhm.
we're applied, and we're going to get LA County because Claremont's in LA County.
Right.
And so, but
People
then
don't
I
know
also,
that usually
yeah, but
the
then
very outskirts of LA County.
yeah, we're on the very east
Yeah,
end
yeah.
of it, right? Because you cross the street and you're in Montclair.
Yep.
Montclair
Mhm.
is San Bernardino County. But anyway, and so, but then we still
Oh,
have,
that's IE, bro. Don't go.
Yeah.
Right there. No, I'm
That's
just
right.
kidding.
well, yeah, we got a rap, right?
Yeah.
I've heard all kinds of fun stuff. But anyway, and I reside there happily.
Right.
Doesn't
right.
matter to me. I don't have to have fancy or anything. I love what I do. But we still have out of network stuff, and got nice places. So it's kind of like, who are you? What are your needs? And where do you want to fit? And
Right.
so we got several places, and then I have contracts with, I've been around for a while.
Right.
We moved the license from Prado, which was in Colton, which was the first one given to Claremont, and then I backfilled it with another license and keep it open. Half my staff moved, and the other half stayed there, and so it's an operation. It was like it happened. I've learned a couple of things, and I've got lots of great help. People that do licensing, and my compliance guy, Devin's great. And
people
the
like
state was
working
helpful.
for you too. I've been to some of the other places, and I've been to the 25-year reunion of His House New Creation where you had Daryl Strawberries
Yeah,
speak and
Yeah.
all the alumni and everything. And then you ended up helping out one of our family members, and we're like eternally grateful for that.
yeah,
The first time a family member reached out, and Glenn had her picked up, and she just took 2 years sobriety. So,
nice.
and and it's not with, you hear a lot of different things like that. And she's been able to keep on using the resources over there. Like if she needs a counseling appointment or whatever, the door's still open.
Yeah.
Glenn doesn't close the door on you or anything. We're talking about a lot of people have alumni and all that stuff, but you can stay and become a part of the family.
Yes.
And the roots go deep. So we super appreciate what you did for our
Awesome.
family member and everybody else, and me, of course,
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, but what
So-
a privilege I get to.
Yeah, exactly. I
Right.
mean, who is to know? It's just when you start walking the path starts appearing.
Yeah,
And people just end up, and that's why F3 recovery is turning fight, flight, and freeze into free form and flowing through practicing the 12 steps and remaining accountable to change, because you got to get out of those negative states.
yeah,
You got to get open. You got to open up your heart and start walking a path, and then the path will appear. Of course, there's going to be some ups and downs and all arounds, but
course.
without that, we don't even have a story or a
Yeah.
journey. I mean, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, we can go on with this podcast for forever and a day and talking about it, but I really appreciate you coming on and then saying how it can be done.
Sure.
And then I think a lot of people tap out, and then there's a lot of stigma behind people that run the treatment centers. And then there's a lot of misinformation on how things go, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you've seen it all. And
Yeah.
then other people that work for it, and it's a high risk population
Sure.
too.
Sure.
So,
Yeah, I don't have a Ferrari or Lamborghini.
yeah, but you do well. You're able to take care of your family. One thing
Sure.
I've always known,
Yeah.
and one of the things big for me in recovery is that every time I was in recovery and working whatever amount of money it was or whatever, that God always made it. I always made it.
Yeah.
And then I would go back out and start using or drinking again, and then all the chaos assumed, and nothing was ever enough.
Yeah.
And so I found working on year 22, and then you working on year 34 now.
Yeah, coming up on 34.
Yeah, and it's crazy that all of our needs have been met, and then this is a 34-year
Yeah.
trajectory going on.
Yeah.
This, so I hope people are really listening and paying attention. Do we got any last comments or anything, Glenn, or what you want to share that you can break
Last
down
comments. Well, I mean, the process. I bumped my head. I got righteous help. I got a method of transformation that I worked through personally that I'm trying to share with other people. And it's like, work steps, understand the principles and apply them, and then go do something.
Yeah.
And while you're doing something, just adhere to principles.
Right.
And so practice principles over personalities. That's what I try to do. I'm the guy that when my wife dropped me off in treatment, she was done, and she told me we were done, and she was leaving. I was like, wow, good for you, and bad for me. And I got to stay married. And for me, the troubling thing, I had 3 children, and I was like, man, somebody else, they're gonna call somebody else dad.
Yeah.
That hurt.
That one stings people.
Yeah, and so there was some motivation there. And so when I got to stay, I mean, I would, who knows where I would be, what I would be doing now if I didn't get to stay married. But it was really important for me to stay clean no matter what.
Right.
And then if I get to help people, that's cool too. But I get to raise my kids, and I was fortunate enough to be able to do that.
Yeah, and you get to live to give, and obviously it blossoms and grows, and you made it through the pandemic, and that's a whole nother story. And kept working and treating people and everything. What about any closing comments from you, Solomon? You got anything else on the back end there?
I'm good. He answered my question early on. I mean, I just think it's an amazing journey. I mean, it's one thing for, someone to build something like this, but it's another thing coming from where you came from, that story of just, being just under the influence of drugs, and then not only coming out of it, but rising to the point where you're able to help others. And I agree with you. I think that is God. I think we all have our own, stories and experiences about, how God has touched each of our lives, myself included. And so, I applaud you for this, and and I know that it's going to continue to help people as we move forward. So, congratulations on this.
Thank you. Well, we served over 600 people last year, and now we're doubled capacity. So we're projected to do 1,200 people. Wow, who'd have thunk? Not me. So what a privilege.
Yeah, and also sinking the money into doing it.
Yeah.
And then taking the next step, and is only just proven everything that you've invested into so far brought you to this, and that you have the ability to do that, and then still have the right frame of mind, and you still have the same principled thing. And it's like, I share a lot that the 12 steps, I believe, are the greatest design for living ever created.
Absolutely.
And if you actually learn how to practice that, and then you applying it into your life, that you already have all the greatest coping skills to apply to whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I did with my journey. And I thank God I had that, because anytime I was in a point of where it needed to be, I was able to pull in what I needed to do, whatever step to do, and apply that. And it works better than I thought it would. Yeah. So thanks again, Glenn, for coming on and behind the scenes. And I'm sure this isn't going to be the last podcast with Glenn S. and His House New Creation and all that stuff. We really appreciate you sponsoring us, and then keeping the information out there alive. And man, we're going to do some shout outs here at the end. We're wrapping up SSP 27. I knew we wouldn't be a loss of words at all through all this.
Right.
I hope everybody appreciated it and understood that what's going on behind the scenes, and putting a face to these people. There's so many great people doing great things out there if they just keep their hearts with it.
Yep.
And so I
Thank
just
you.
want to
Appreciate you and what you do.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no problem. And just want to shout out here. We're on all platforms. You can go to Buzzsprout, the universal streaming area, and you can find whatever listening you do on the podcast, or you can go to YouTube, watch the video for sure on this one, and Spotify, all that stuff. You just punch in Super Sober Podcast. We're there. We also, you can reach us out, just email us, info@supersoberpodcast.org or info@f3recovery.org. And you can see us on our website, and that's f3recovery.org. And there's a resources page there. You can see Glenn and all that over there. And then he's on the resource page. You can get through the numbers. We're an on-growing platform for sure. Shout out to Notorious JID, the first mascot of recovery. Jails, institutions, and death, the outcome. If you want to test that one we don't need to do anymore. We just threw out some statistics on the fentanyl, but he's always hanging out right there. And then shout out to the streaming series that I wrote for Hollywood, which is the Detox, the one sheets on f3recovery.org. You just click in there, you'll see the Detox. If anybody wants to, in Hollywood, or anybody wants to come up with a streaming series, it's never been done for recovery. It's been going on for a long time. If not or not, just I'm kind of thinking the way that journeys go, I'm kind of glad that I didn't sell that in the beginning, or if it didn't go, because I wouldn't have been doing what I'm doing right now in this area. So, all right. And thanks for, again, for everybody, and Solomon here at the Long Beach, the podcast place. You want to go from zero to podcast. You've been thinking about doing it. You just come in, walk in, and it's on and cracking, right, Solomon?
Absolutely.
That's right.
Nice.
All right. And you know our motto, just keep on keeping on. Thank you for listening to the Super Sober Podcast. Go to our website at f3recovery.org. That's F3Recovery, all one word, .org. We're turning fight, flight, and freeze into free form and flowing through practicing the 12 steps and staying accountable to change. Don't forget to keep on keeping on.